What's up, Justin? Good to see you again. Came in here about a year ago, and it was kind of that unknown thing about who do you have in your room. Just how good and comfortable do you feel with the returning guys that are back in your receiver room?
Yeah, obviously got some guys that have played a lot. Got some guys that kind of had to learn by fire last year. Got thrown into the fire. Obviously, there's I think to me we're not where we need to be. We're a lot better than we were at this point last year. I think everybody, for one, has bought into the culture that Coach Beamer has built here, and then obviously bought into the culture in our wide receiver room. Talk about playing with really good effort. We want people to turn the tape on and understand and be really impressed with how hard we play without the football. Obviously, we have to get open versus man coverage and have to catch the ball, but as far as blocking down the field, I think of several instances in the bowl game with E.J. Jenkins and Josh Vann and Xavier Legette of blocking down the field in the bowl game. So that's something that we try to do a really good job with. This is playing as hard as we can without the football. We've added some pieces since then with Juice Wells being here. I think he's brought a lot of competition to our room. I have another young man that'll be here in August or be here in the beginning of the summer with Landon Sampson that we signed out of Texas. So really looking forward to having him here. Just with anything else, man, competition makes everybody better. So that's what we try to do every day in our room is compete and understand that nobody has a job locked up and, just keep making each other better.
Hey, Justin, I know the other day Shane was mentioning how DK is starting in the wide receivers room for spring. I mean, what does he need to do to be able to take that next step in your eyes to be able to get things going the way that he wants to now that he's in that wide receiver room, feel more comfortable having a couple more years under his belt?
Yeah, just like you said. I mean, a guy that when I got here last year, I hadn't played a lot of receiver. I think about how I grew up my whole life in high school, in my first 2 years of college playing receiver, and then really the light didn't click for me until my sophomore, junior year of college. So, for him, it's just continuing to really just dive into the playbook, dive into the intricacies of playing receiver, understanding leverage, understanding break points, understanding, why he needs to be at a certain spot. I think the quarterback aspect of that really helps him have an understanding of what the quarterback's looking at and what the quarterback's reading. But, I think with anything else, man, the more you do it, the more you feel comfortable with it, I couldn't literally – the kid works harder than anybody I've ever been around, man. I mean, he loves football, and he loves the University of South Carolina. So, when a guy has that kind of work ethic, that kind of attitude, man, he can all he's going to do is continue to get better. So, really proud of him, man. Couldn't be more excited for the way he was in the bowl game. There's nobody in the world that deserved that more than DK. So, I made sure that he came over and got in the receiver picture as soon as the bowl game was over, though, so he didn't forget.
Justin, you mentioned not being where you want to be from receiver room. What do you want to see more from your group as you go through spring and then get into summer?
Yeah, winning one-on-ones, man. That is the major emphasis for our group this spring. In this league, I'd love to say you get quarters coverage and cover three, but it's press coverage. And we got to do a great job of winning our one-on-ones, man. We got to be in a quarterback-friendly position, in a quarterback-friendly time. Understanding why we have to be where we are and having the physicality and the tools to be able to get open versus press. That's our number one job is making contested catches. There's no uncontested catches in this league. If you do, it's a rarity. But just winning our one-on-one battles has been a major point of emphasis for our group. And the only way you do that is to get better and do it in practice, man. I love Coach Gray and Coach Beamer gives Coach Gray and I a bunch of one-on-one time, bunch of release time. So iron and sharpening iron, and same thing for him. Covering guys one-on-one, that's the best thing for us. So that's been a huge emphasis for us this spring.
Justin, it looked like the season opener next year was going to be a family reunion for you and your brother. Obviously he's got a big job now. What are your feelings on not getting to play that game and about your brother moving on to Louisville?
Yeah, really excited for him. That was going to be awkward. It was going to be super awkward because we've never done that. We were on the same team at Furman, and then he transferred to Newberry and still thankfully never had to play each other. So, I think my mom and dad are probably more excited about it than anybody else. But it was going to be an awkward first 2 weeks with that one and then going to Arkansas for sure. Really excited for him. I know he was finally have a chance to be a coordinator and to coach the quarterbacks, which is what he played growing up. So I know he was really excited about that. But I think he's really excited to be at the Power 5 level. I think that's always been a dream of his. So being in an ACC school, in a school like Louisville, and with a bunch of good guys. I mean, the DC was in my wedding there. The offensive coordinator was in my wedding. So, I mean, there's a lot of familiarity there. Really excited for him. It was interesting, that whole week I was getting text messages from people I grew up with saying congratulations. And I was like, man, I grew up with you, and that's not me in that picture, So that was kind of fun. Recruits were texting me. Had to make sure they know I didn't leave South Carolina. So, but really excited for him and really excited for his family. So,
Justin, obviously, I know X got a little banged up in that accident at one point last year and was working back from that. But I guess just how do you see him kind of fitting into this group this year as well? And then I know you mentioned Landon. I mean, I know you recruited Landon, know Landon about as good as anyone. Just, I guess, not to put a timetable on it, but do you see him as a guy who can get here and maybe compete for some reps like right away as a freshman?
Yeah. For Xavier, man, you want to talk about a guy that kind of got thrown in the fire against Vanderbilt and comes back and plays, wasn't playing a ton, gets in the Vanderbilt game and catches the game-winning touchdown pass. And, he's weighing 217, 218 right now, man, just looking really, had an unbelievable winter. Probably one of the more, country kids I've ever been around. Like, he FaceTimes me on spring break and he's riding a horse, between him and Traylon Burks, they're running close on who's the more country kid. But really excited about him, man, just from a physicality standpoint, a speed standpoint, being able to do a lot of the stuff in the run game with him blocking, just because he's so physical and he's so big. I'm really excited, for him. And, again, same thing with him. He played quarterback all in high school, so kind of going back to Mike's question, I mean, he's still getting used to, getting in and out of cuts. What's funny is you watch our individual tape from last spring and last summer and then putting a drill tape together for the clinic this weekend, man. Man, it is night and day between him and DK and even a guy like Josh Vann, So just continue to, polish up his fundamentals, his technique. But I'm excited. I think he can, for speed and power and size, man, I think he's going to be able to help us. And as far as Landon, man, Landon comes from one of the best high school programs in the country. I mean, his head coach, Riley Dodge, has played at this level, coached was a GA at this level. Does a great job with those kids, man. And that's the one thing about, getting a kid from that level in Texas, man. I'm not saying it's the SEC, obviously, but he's played a lot of really good football. He's very smart, and he works really hard. So, obviously, he's going to have to earn everything he gets when he gets here, man. But if I didn't think he could do it, I wouldn't have recruited him.
Justin, I know it's limited the amount of practice time that we were able to see from a media standpoint, but I know the first couple of days, maybe some of the passes from Spencer, might be a little behind trying to just get that timing down with the receivers. So, between being a coach and then just going back to your playing days, outside of just the extra reps after practice and just being able to get on the same page, is there anything more that wide receivers and quarterbacks can do when they're just trying to be able to develop that rapport, that chemistry, and just that timing that comes with being able to understand when that pass is going to get there?
Yeah, I think, obviously there's a lot that goes into it on the field. I think being together off the field, spending time together off the field and kind of understanding what makes each other tick. Coach Sad is awesome with me. We give up a little bit more of individual time so we can throw routes together. So our guys kind of get that more comfortable feeling with each other. But that's what it is, man. It's just reps after reps after reps, because everybody's going to run a 6-step speed out different, And so, obviously, the arm talent that Spencer has, man, it's fun to watch. And my guys are so excited too, man. They love it. So just repetitions, whether it be individual time, whether it be 7-on-7, any of the team pass stuff. You can throw all you want to routes on air, and then you get into live bullets. Man, there's bullets flying. There's guys blitzing. There's guys pressing. It takes a lot of repetitions, man. But I'm really impressed with how we've done so far. Obviously, there's a long way to go, but just as many reps as possible. Saying after practice, it's awesome to see them spending time together after practice, talking through this. Hey, what'd you see here? What'd you see there? Like the constant communication when they come off the field is what's been really impressive as well.
You kind of alluded to Josh improving in a lot of ways. I mean, and obviously he took a big jump last year. What have you seen from him that way specifically?
Yeah, obviously, just ability to compete and not be satisfied with where he is. It'd be really easy for a guy like that to, okay, I did this last year. I'm automatically, have that feeling of complacency. Coach Beamer talks about it all the time with our staff. Like nobody should feel comfortable. Not that you walk around on eggshells, but I mean, you always want to be, the feeling that, hey, I got to get better because this is happening or that's happening. Like Josh, I mean, bringing a guy like Juice in here and seeing how Xavier's working, seeing how AB's working. I mean, I think he sees those guys taking their game to another level, and it makes him want to get better too. So, just attacking, extra film. Like we were out at a golf thing 2 weeks ago, and it was a 5:30 on a Friday, and he's FaceTiming me from in my office trying to figure out how he can get to my cut-ups. I mean, 5:30 on a Friday afternoon for a guy that's had played the way he has. Obviously, he's got to get better and continue to improve. But for him to do that on a 5:30 on a Friday, I thought spoke volumes. And 5:30 yesterday, he's calling me sitting in my office. I was already gone. So I think he's got a hunger. I think he came back for a reason to help this football team, but also to help himself.
Justin, over the offseason, were you in a position to where you potentially had opportunities to go elsewhere? And if so, why was staying at South Carolina the right thing for you to do?
I won't speak to the having other opportunities, man. I can tell you I love Shane Beamer, the way he's been with me. And again, I go back to the way he handled that whole situation with my family before I ever came here, with my daughter being in the NICU. I think last year was tough on a lot of people. I mean, obviously, there's some of the stuff we had to go through on offense throughout that first year, man. It's hard enough in your first year, but then you go through some of the things we went through. Man, I'm home. This is where I want to be. I mean, I can see my kids see their grandparents every day, or at least twice a week. So that's been a blessing for me. So I'm extremely happy to be here. Extremely happy to be part of Coach Beamer's staff, and I've learned so much. I've learned more football in a year with Marcus than I have in a long time. I mean, our offense is it's not necessarily complicated, but there's a lot that goes into it, and it's made me a better coach for sure.
Justin, when you have a quarterback who's not just mobile, but his running game is a big part of the offense, does that change the way you got to coach your guys by saying he may run out and you're going to have to do something else here? Do you have to add a few things into your playbook to accommodate for that?
I don't think you necessarily have to add anything to your playbook. If anything, man, everybody's got to be alive. There's routes where you're protecting, you're running outside, you're just outside releasing to protect. Well, the first 2 days of practice, those balls got thrown. So for me, I'm like, oh, thank God, somebody finally threw that. Like, hey, you can get it. I've been telling you can get it, but you can actually get it. So, I think it helps from a receiver standpoint. It helps my guys know that no matter what they're running, they could think they're just protecting a guy and just kind of, we always say in my room, kind of stepping into a fastball just to take one for the team, man. But it's actually you could be alive. Obviously I did a red zone study this year of all this every single touchdown in the SEC. And you wouldn't believe how many touchdowns are thrown off a scramble drill. So that was a huge emphasis for Coach Satt and Coach Beamer going into the first few days of practice. And I'll be dang, at the first day of Pascal, we hit a scramble drill for a touchdown. I mean, it's amazing how it all correlates. So for me, it's exciting. I don't think you have to change anything. You obviously have to make it an emphasis, and everybody has to be in tune and be alert. But for a receiver coach who has, there are plays where some receivers don't think they're ever going to get the ball. For them to have a chance to get it, it helps me as a coach for sure.
Hey, Coach Stepp. I wanted to ask, is Jaheim Bell working out with you guys a little bit? I heard he was going back and forth. And then I also wanted to ask about some of the options out of the backfield. Have you been working with some of the running backs?
Yeah, Jaheim's even getting towards the end of the year last year, if we're doing more route running specific things and it's not a heavy run day, whatever the case may be, Jaheim was with me some there and too, working on break points and dropping his weight and transitions through the top of his routes. That's stuff we did last year, so he has worked a lot of that with me as well. But as far as the running backs, none of those guys, Mo coached receivers, heck, he was in there. I ask him questions about receiver play all the time. So, I think he's pretty well versed in that. So they usually stay with him. So I don't think he's trying to get one of those guys over to my group right now anyway. I'd take some of them.
Justin, a minute ago you said that you've learned more with Marcus and his offense than in a while in terms of the game of football. Can you are there some specific things you can share in terms of kind of where that growth for you has been able to happen in the last year plus?
Yeah, some of the other offenses I've been in are more one word, no huddle, fast paced things, and you don't when you're in that world, you don't necessarily have to be in tune to what everybody else is doing. You're legitimately in another world out there on the perimeter. In ours, you got to hear. I mean, you got to be in a huddle. You got to hear a formation. You got to hear an adjustment. You got to hear an emotion, and then you got to know your job. So. It's a lot. It's a lot, especially for an 18, 19-year-old kid coming from high school. It's a lot for those kids. It was a lot for me. I mean, I'm 38 years old. I've been doing it. This will be my 15th year. And for me, I mean, I was in there in the receiver room drawing. I mean, I was having to draw stuff all day. And Coach Satt's done a great job of developing us as coaches. Like, he puts us up and he says, all right, Stepp, you got this play. Let's install it to the staff. And so as for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still learning this. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world, but it's just like we ask the kids, they got to be uncomfortable, or not. You're not growing. So it's been great, man. He's done a great job of developing some of our younger coaches and myself as well. And like I said, I mean, it's just a completely different system than anything I've been in. I was in a one-word offense for 3 years at SMU, 3 years at Arkansas, and to be here and to be in this system, I can watch an NFL game. The cool thing about it is you can watch an NFL game and you're like, oh, I know what that is. So that's pretty cool. It's awesome.
Talked about Landon, but just Khalik, I think is how you say his name. Just what do you see from him in the recruitment process, and how excited are you about what he can bring to the table?
You want to talk about just a freak athlete. I don't know if any of y'all watched some of his basketball stuff. I mean, that kid, I don't even think he knows how good he can be in his frame. He plays basketball. He goes to the football, goes to basketball, goes to track, goes to baseball. I mean, the man hasn't even had an off season of true lifting. Not even to say like he hasn't even eaten like we eat here. So there's no telling the growth that kid can have in his first 6 months here. But just somebody that, I mean, I can help you run routes. I can help you with catching the football, the jumping and all that stuff, and just the natural ball skills and the athletic ability that kid has. Man, it's hard for me to do all that. So obviously he's gifted, really, really gifted. So I'm excited to get him here. Really, really excited to get him here and see, all the things that he can do. From an athletic standpoint, man, it's the sky's the limit for him. Thanks, guys.